Hello. Inspired by the eclipse, total eclipse for some people, partial eclipse for others, that we experienced, or a lot of us have experienced last week, I was thinking about it and I came up with some ideas and connections that I'd like to share with you. It was brought to my attention that this unique experience is only seen by us here in this world. There's no other place in the universe that actually could see this kind of sight that we saw, and this precision is kind of interesting. How the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, and the moon is 400 times closer to us than the sun, and for that precision, and the numbers have to be just so there would be this total eclipse happening, and the shapes are so similar. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but this unique precision obviously kind of lends itself to the idea of Hashgacha Pratis, how everything is so precise. Hashem makes everything so perfect in terms of design, and obviously it's for us to learn from and for us to be mindful of and to contemplate on the meaning of which to us, to personalize it in some way. I mean, the Baal Shem Tov says that whatever you see and you hear in the world, in your personal world, you're supposed to take something out of it in Avodas Hashem and learn something out of it in Avodas Hashem. And this is an exercise in that teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, I suppose. The first thing that I saw, I mean, I'm in New York, and the first thing that I saw, and I saw this in Manhattan on my lunch break, was how different it was than what people were expecting. We were getting all these warnings, it's dangerous, and schools are getting home. Some of the schools were closing early because they're expecting it to be so dark and it's going to be dangerous and traffic, etc. But the first thing, contrasting to that kind of warning that was put out into the media, here in New York at least, was that here we didn't have a total eclipse. We had a partial eclipse. 93% was covered. How even though the sun was only shining 7%, how much light there was in the world, and how daylight it was, even only at 7% in those few moments of 93% of the obstruction of the eclipse. So the takeaway for that, for me, is that even if a person is not operating at 100%, maybe they're not contributing 100%. So a person might think, what's my 1%, 2% of contribution? Seemingly it's meaningless. No, every percent is valuable, and every percent has a huge effect, as we saw with the sun, that even at 7% it was lighting up the world in a really beautiful way. It's a little bit dimmer, but it had a huge impact, and so do we, with whatever percentage that we could exert and radiate into the world, it has a certain effect. That's number one. Number two is that the eclipse can symbolize, the fact that it's an obstruction, there's a source of light that's being blocked, could lend itself to the symbolism of challenge and obstacles in a person's life. So I was thinking about it, that it's kind of inspiring in the fact that just like an eclipse, you have this obstruction that happens, and it's only momentary, so too an obstacle that might seem like it's endless and insurmountable, it's just a temporary test. So a person has to keep on shining, so to speak, and keep on working, and the challenge is going to pass, just like the moon passed and the sun was able to radiate at 100%, not just 7%. Number three is kind of related to the first two, is no matter how much the sun is covered, if it's totally covered or partially covered, there's such a beauty there. There's such an immense beauty in the light that is seen. So maybe that could lend itself to the idea that despite a person's obstructions and challenges, when they're continuing to shine, specifically in those times of hardship, that is the most beautiful light. That is the most beautiful contribution. The light despite the darkness. Number four. The moon is considerably smaller than the sun. It's 400 times smaller than the sun. Yet, in the eclipse, it was able to completely outdo, so to speak, the body that is 400 times greater. So one of the takeaways that I was thinking of is that as long as you keep doing what you need to do, you keep trucking on your orbit, and you proceed and you go high, as you need to go. I mean, as long as you keep on going, I mean, you could even outshine or outdo much greater entities than you. And this also brings to mind I didn't see this inside, but somebody was saying, and I overheard this, that the Rebbe teaches that the moon can teach us with the eclipse that when can the moon eclipse the sun? When it's completely batal, when it's completely nullified, then it can even outshine or outdo the sun. So with bittul, you can actually go beyond oneself, and you can achieve things that are really beyond limit. 5. An eclipse in a personal sphere. First of all, even though the eclipse, happens so rarely, and the next eclipse that we're going to see here in New York is going to be in 20 years. I mean, eclipses happen to us all the time on our personal sphere. People are eclipsed. We eclipse other people. I mean, this is something that in the personal realm, the personal sphere, happens all the time. So I was thinking that just like the moon's size is 400 times smaller than that of the sun, and it was able to eclipse it, to outdo it, to completely cover it over, or the majority of it to be covered over, it seems that also we could be doing the same thing to other people as well. We let little things, come in the way and obstruct the light of other people. It could be a resentment, it could be a judgment, it could be a misunderstanding. Whatever small thing that we basically lift up against that other individual completely obstructs them and blocks them from our life. And that diminishes them. And that is a sad situation, that we can do such a thing, that we have this small little thing that completely blocks people out. So maybe the lesson from that is to dissolve them and to let them go, and then you can actually enjoy the light of that other individual instead of enjoying their light, their contribution. Because everybody has a certain light that they can shine into your life. Number 6, to see this amazing occurrence, you have to have special glasses. You can't just look at the sun and see the eclipse. It doesn't work that way. We're not vessels for that. There's too much light, even at those moments, especially with a partial eclipse. I think that with a total eclipse, you are able to see it without, but you have to have solar glasses, or you have to have filters for your cameras, whatever it might be, and the glasses, they minimize the amount of light that comes in, and then you're able to see the eclipse. So I was thinking that, based on the idea that the eclipse could be somebody's challenge, somebody's hardship, I mean, it's hard for us to see somebody else's affliction or somebody else's struggle if we don't have those glasses. Meaning to say that we have to put ourselves aside, we have to have that bittul to minimize what we see. We have to minimize ourselves, in a sense, to put oneself on the side, so you can actually see somebody else's eclipse, somebody else's struggle, somebody else's difficult moment, and help them, hopefully. Another thing that I was thinking about, that is the last human point of interest, so to speak, regarding this as takeaways and highlights, is that just like the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, yet it's 400 times closer to us in this, when we're looking up at the heavens. I mean, they look pretty much the same to such an extent that they could perfectly match and eclipse the sun in certain areas, as millions of people have seen in America just a few days ago. So I was thinking that it could also symbolize, you have Shemesh Hashem, you have ruchnius, you have godliness, symbolized by the sun, and then you have certain things that are closer to us, much more earthbound or earth-related, like the moon. And yet, because it's so much closer to us and the sun is so much farther away, it might actually seem like they're the same, and even the earthly things could actually cover over the sun. So that could be how we could let earthly things and earthly pleasures obstruct the light of Hashem and the light of the truth. Now, moving on to some other ideas that have to do with gematria, the numbers, and such symbolisms regarding the words of the moon and the sun and what we could glean out of them. I came up with these ideas, and here they go. Here we go. So eclipse connections. So the word for sun in Hebrew is one of the words is chama, which is comprised of the letters ches, mem, he. Together, every letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a numerical equivalent. So altogether, the numbers of ches, mem, he come up to 53. 53 is really symbolic because it also relates to the 53 parshas of the Torah. That's very special. And also, it's gan, it's a garden. So Chama is like Chom Hashem. We have like the warmth of Hashem. We need the sun to grow the garden. We need the sun to grow produce and trees, and all the vegetation is dependent, all the plants and trees are dependent on the sun. So the sun makes things grow. And you have physical growth of the garden. You have also a spiritual garden. So you need the Hashem's light, Hashem's warmth to grow physical things, and also to grow, spiritually. We have to have that warmth. So that basically could be like the Gilui Gadol, like a very big revelation. You have this warmth of Hashem, you feel it, you sense it, and that basically is the Or Nira. It's like something that you actually can see, it's visible. You can see the sun waking up over here right behind me. The word for the moon, one of them is Levana. And Levana, the gematria of that is 83, which makes up the word Paz. Paz is a very precious gold. Gold is something that is hidden in the ground. It's something that you have to excavate. So I was thinking that it could symbolize Gilui Katan, like a small revelation, and also kind of like you have the moon in the darkness of the sky, like an organos, like a hidden light. So now, what if we take the Chama and also the Levana, we put them together, we come up with the number 140. So that could represent 140 Yad Hashem. You have Yud Dalet, 14, times Yud, other Yud Sfiros, Yud Mamaris. So the combination of both of them, you have like a certain revelation. You see the hand of God in creation. So that is definitely something that millions of people saw all around America this time around. And it was such a fervor in the air, such an energy. It was like everybody's excited. Even when I went outside in Manhattan, the whole block, we were all together. People are giving each other glasses people didn't have. There was such a unity, there's such an excitement in the air, it was palpable. So another thing regarding 140, that it could spell the word kam, or kum, kuf mem. So that's like uplifting. It's an uplifting experience when you have that combination of the sun and the moon uniting in such a way. It's a very inspiring, very awe-inspiring event. So that's when you put them together in the positive. In the negative, if you take 87 minus 53, you get the number 34, which spells out dal. Like you have a poor person. So that could symbolize, lacking, likui. So that's like the blockage that we talked about before. Another word for the Chama, or for the sun, is Shemesh. Shemesh is also from Lashon of Mishu, something that is palpable, you could feel it. So it's like a revelation you can actually feel. It's like it's so real, it's so visible, it's so clear. Yareach is another word for the moon. And Yareach is in Gematria 218, and that spells out Reach. Reach is like smell, but the Rebbe brings in his teachings that also Reach relates to Reach de Levushaychut from the Zohar, the smell of the scent of one's clothes. And the clothes are symbolic of the garments of the soul, the clothes of the soul that are machshava divrei ma'aseh. You have thought, speech, and action, and those things are changing. You can change what you think about, you can change what you speak about, you can change what you do, and that relates also to the moon, because the moon also changes. It has a lot of changes as well. So now, learning from these secondary words or alternative words for the moon and the sun, or the sun and the moon, Shemesh and Yarech, on the positive, you put them together. Shemesh is the numerical equivalent of 640, and Yarech is the equivalent of 218. When you put them together, you have 858. 858 is one of the possibilities is tet chen. Tet, la tet, it's to give. Chen is to give grace, to give beauty. So I was thinking that the takeaway from this could be that you're giving somebody else the opportunity to shine. Like, even though the sun is so great and wonderful in a sense, like, it's giving the opportunity for the moon to outshine it, to succeed. So that is a really beautiful thing. This other-centeredness, to be, in a sense, otherworldly. Every person is a world. So to actually, think of somebody else, another world instead of you, it's very humble. It's very, very beautiful to be humble. It's a symbol of humility and the beauty of humility, of course. Alternatively, we could say that it spells out this 858. You have Nachas, Nun Chas Taf, 400, meaning to say 40 times 10 is 400. So 40 symbolizes, in this context, Mem Sa, the 40 Sa that is needed to make a mikvah, or the minimal amount. And the mikvah is a place where you go to purify oneself, to also nullify oneself, to get in sync, so to speak, with Hashem. So it could symbolize 40 times 10, like this perfection and bittul, or perfection and purity. And this gives Hashem a lot of nachas. So even though some entity is bigger or greater than another, despite the differences, to let the other person shine, to let the other person win, to let the other person go first, gives a lot of nachas, and it's the ultimate in humility and bittul. On the negative, Shemesh minus Yarech, 640 minus 218 is 422. So as I was contemplating this, it occurred to me that 422 is Yud Resh Aleph, Yira, like fear or awe, times 2. So there's lots of fears, lots of different kinds of fears or awe that a person could have. But something that is really significant in this context to me was it's Yud Resh Aleph Yira without the Hey. If it had Hey, it could also symbolize Yiras Hashem, like you have awe and fear of Hashem. But here it's like fear without Hashem, meaning to say Hashem is not in a person's thought. Hashem's awareness is kind of missing from your sphere, so therefore you're left with fear, a double fear, like choshech kafel mechupa, like a double, darkness within darkness. Also, yira with hey, besides yiras Hashem that it could allude to, is also you have vision, you have clarity. So when you have clarity, when you have vision, you don't have fear, you have calm, you have a certain security. But when a person does not have that vision, and they do not have that yiras Hashem, they don't have that comfort in that awareness and consciousness of Hashem being with them. So the only thing they're left with is fear, and they're in darkness. They're completely eclipsed. So I hope this was interesting for you. May we illuminate and merit to illuminate and let other people illuminate, and may we see Hashem revealed, should illuminate all of us in the coming of Mashiach now. Thank you.